What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Pixelology stream. My name is Ian Robinson, and I work here at Maxon as a ZBrush trainer, instructor, and guy who makes content for you. What's up, Chase? You were first to comment. What is up, man? First here. Thank you so much for being here. Happy to have you. Just so you guys know, real quick, just to kind of, if anybody's new here and doesn't know what we do, we are ZBrush. We make a industry-leading sculpting program, and our streams are here to help kind of break down the mystery of the program, answer your questions, and also just show you some really cool art in the process. So definitely make sure you're following and liking. We are continuing the series that we did a couple weeks ago, which was I'm just sculpting a little bit of fan art for Stranger Things. No spoilers, FYI, but I've been wanting to sculpt a Demogorgon for a very long time, so I pulled a lot of different reference for that. And because it's kind of, humanoid-ish shape, we are going to go ahead and kind of just do our own little interpretation on the creature itself. So if you've at least seen season 1, then you'll know what this creature is from. But yeah, so I just have my reference off over the side, and we're just kind of doing our own take. What's up, Sina? Yo, how you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. So last week we did a quick series called How It's Made, and I just want to point to that real fast. So let me pull that up real quick. But we did a series on how it's made, and we went over building a miniature for tabletop gaming. So if that is something that you also like, you can take this link here, and you can actually go back and follow along with me. And we also released the STL, so it's right over here. We built this last week, which was a lot of fun. And then, of course, you could just go ahead and download the STL of what I built. But if you want to know how to make it from scratch, come through this whole process, and I show out very simple, fun blockouts so that you guys can get started in ZBrush fairly easily. So if that interests you, pop on over there. But yeah, let's get to it. We're just going to be sculpting. Just sculpting and hanging out. I did a little bit of refinement since the last time you guys have seen this creature. So if you go back to one of my previous streams, you might see that. But what we did, just to recap, is this is a ray mesh. So this is just one piece. Woo, look at that. There you go. This is just one piece that we are being able to manipulate however we want. So a lot of fun there. Hello, Metal Gear. How you doing? So we're going to refine this a little bit more. I just kind of cleaned it up, got proportions a little bit better, kind of nitpicking it a bit. So let's actually continue that. Let's turn off RGB. I'm just going to use the clay brush here to kind of come through and add a little bit. I'm going to be merging these pieces together at some point. So I have his hands right here that are still needing a lot of TLC. So maybe we'll start with that. Let's come out of there. Yeah. Might want to subdivide this up a little bit. A little TLC for this. His hands are kind of grotesque looking, which is neat. I like that. Hello, hello. I do have a YouTube channel. It's called IR Sculpts. If you just search IR Sculpts, you'll find it. I'm not very active on there at the moment. But I do have some videos over there if you'd like to see. But I'm actually doing the Ask ZBrush videos now as well. So if you guys do have questions about that stuff, feel free to tweet at us on the Ask ZBrush stuff. Because I'm spending a lot of time trying to make those content videos for you guys. Hey Pixie, how you doing? Welcome back. Hello, I was just curious if you could share some practical sculpting techniques. How to sculpt to get some good form, how to use your brushes to get that organic feeling. Well, hang out, because that's exactly what we're doing today. I'm actually going through using just the clay brush right now. But if you actually want to see the block out of this, I did that 2 weeks ago on the YouTube channel. You could just type in Pixo or just type ZBrush IR Sculpts, or I can post it here in a second. But I'm actually doing that right now, so because that's a whole process. So hang on out, and we'll cover it. Like right now, for example, what I am doing is I am using my own hand as reference, and kind of taking the clay itself, which is B for brush, C, and then L which is just a standard clay brush. I love this brush because if we take the standard brush, for example, it's neat, but what the standard brush does is if there's like texture or something, like let's say there's like some sort of detailing, and then use the standard brush, it kind of pushes that texture up a little bit when you use that. But it's a very like a kind of tube-ish shape, and I'm going for kind of like a weird fatty tissue texture look. And with the clay buildup brush, you get a lot of lines naturally that you can build up on, which is really cool. And I usually use this brush a lot for like skin surface. But with the clay buildup, or I'm sorry, the clay brush itself, nice big brush, I'm able to build, and it gives a very subtle texture-y feel to it, which gives me a little bit more of that kind of natural fatty tissue look to it, because under our skin has, you know, you have more than just blood and bones. There's like fat pads, and so this kind of helps me build up a little bit more cautiously while I'm looking at my anatomy reference, and still giving me some nice little textures on top. So definitely hang out as I go through the process. I try to explain everything I do as I do it, but yeah. So like right now we're working on the knuckles of this hand, and I don't know if you could see my hand. Let me see real quick. If you can see my hand, I actually like, so you have the finger, you have the main knuckle joint here, and then let's use this finger. So we got this knuckle here, and then it kind of like bows in a little bit, then it flares out at the knuckle point itself, and then it comes in again, and then it flares out at the third knuckle. So that's actually what I'm paying attention to right now, is we're going through and just kind of building up these knuckles a bit. And I'm just using Dynamesh too, because the beauty part about ZBrush is that we're able to just build without concern. You know, I'm not worried about anything else other than the anatomy, so I could just get in here and build. So, and he's a creature, right? So I can exaggerate my proportions even further than I would with human anatomy. So even though it's humanoid-ish, I can just kind of build worry-free. I don't have to worry about the rules as much. So I want this bone kind of effect here, because you can kind of see where the bones connect on the finger. So this is where the standard brush does come in handy. So I'm going to go ahead and actually hold the space bar and bring the focal shift down negatively to give me a wider brush. I'm going to come in here and holding shift, I'm going to pick one spot, hold shift, I'm going to drag the lazy mouse out, let go, and it's going to actually draw out a nice little straight line that's going to represent my bony tissue. And I can adjust the intensity of that if it's too hard. Just come back in. So that's getting a good spot. Press as you're sculpting. Press, hold shift. That's going to drag out. You need the lazy mouse connected for that. So that's under stroke, lazy mouse. And the standard brush already has lazy mouse radius 1. If lazy mouse is turned off, you can't really hold shift. It doesn't work. But as long as lazy mouse is turned on even at a level 1, so you don't need a massive tail, start sculpting, hold shift, come out, and you can draw a line. So now I can get that kind of bone look from the knuckle to the knuckle, and I don't have to worry about anything else. So that's going to give me those knuckle shapes out the gate. And because the fingers are slightly different, boom, boom, done. Yeah. Russell, what is happening? Hello. Welcome in, welcome in. It's the same thing here. Let's go back. Let's build up this back knuckle here. There we go. So I'm just looking at my own hand as far as reference goes, so I guess I have an ugly hand. Oh, what's up, Snickles? Hey, Snickles! So you see here, like, I'm building this fat pad that's under the hand, and I'm just lightly adding a little bit of clay, And it's going to give me that kind of look. And I'm subtracting too. I'm adding a little bit, then I subtract by holding Alt. And I just make those adjustments. When you're working with a pen, you can actually kind of fine tune how much gets put down at once. Or you can adjust the intensity. Without any spoilers, is everybody semi caught up with Stranger Things? I binged through that so fast. It was ridiculous. Okay, so see here, like I have a very thin spot of material right here. And if I start sculpting on this side, notice how it kind of creeps up. So we want to minimize that effect. So we're going to want to go ahead and go to brush. We're going to go to auto masking, and we're going to turn on backface mask. And as soon as I start doing that, notice it protects the back side of that mesh. So if you have thin areas and you want to build that up, turn on backface mask. Now that's brush dependent, so let's go ahead and toggle this over. So if I actually take this brush and I kind of drop it over here. So if I were to switch brushes to, let's say, Clay Buildup, notice that the back face goes away. So if I want to keep back face on for my brushes, I got to make sure to turn it on. So it's just brush auto masking back face, but I tend to create a little shortcut for that. I like to work with my shortcuts, which is under brush, right there. Okay. So this geometry here, I pointed it out so that I can actually place a nail. And because the nail is going to be super gross, let's actually save this real fast. So I'm saving projects to keep the history going. Maybe do a time lapse of this creature. Be cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this with the knife curve. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to clip these sections off like that. And then I can place my nail inside of that tissue. So it's kind of a bit of a placeholder. Now let's fix his thumb, because his thumb's pretty janky right now, right? Knuckle is a weird word. Knuckle is a weird word. I am actually confused with the anatomy choices. The names of anatomies have confused me slightly when trying to learn certain words. I think a lot of them are like Latin based, but still, I'm already bad with names, so or I'm trying to learn the name of an anatomy. So yeah, names like Knuckles are weird. I agree with you. I might have said this before too, but thumbs used to be a big problem for me when I would start sculpting because I have little toe thumbs. And so all my characters, look, my character has a toe thumb right now. So like I would have to like come in and fix a lot of that stuff after the fact. So I've had to like look at my thumb and tell myself that's not a normal thumb. It's normal to me though. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and knife curve this guy up. Season 4 was great. Yeah, season 4 was awesome. Season 4 was awesome. Highly recommend if you've not seen it, definitely see it, guys. It's gonna be cool. Okay, so now we have these little cutoff spots. I'm gonna be shoving a really weird claw nail in there, and then that's gonna help exaggerate the feel of these hands. Because they're not quite human, but they're human inspired, right? So let's mask off using the mask lasso, hold control. I'm gonna mask off where this knuckle would be on the hand, or on the thumb. Boop. Push that down into the center, because you always want to try to manipulate the joint as if the joint was actually moving, right? So if I were to try to bend this down just a little bit, I want to push that in the middle and try to move it exactly as it would move in real life. And that's going to help you recognize proportions a little bit better when you start seeing like, oh, that feels weird as soon as I moved it. Like your hands have this little webbing between each of your fingers, but specifically between the thumb and the index finger, you have this long web that helps us stretch our hand out. So I want to get that going. So we're going to go to the move brush, turn on our back face mask, and I'm going to kind of pull this out a little bit. Okay. Now we're Dynameshing, so I can just Dynamesh that. And then right in here, this little pocket, this pocket's important for that. So you're actually going to want to kind of sculpt that down a little bit. You're going to cut that in negatively and kind of have it round off so that it stretches. And it's almost like it folds over itself. So you're just kind of seeing how that stretch applies. It's really cool. Let's see. Tell me something, Mr. Robinson. Why clay over clay buildup? Clay, I use both, but the reason why I'm using clay right now is because of the texture I get. So clay buildup in its default form, meaning I haven't altered its original, its original settings from startup. I get this, and this is really, but this creature is kind of oddly textured, and I want the feel of some sort of like fat pad grunginess over the hand. So if I go to clay itself and I start building that up, let me turn the intensity on because I did adjust that. Might be a little hard to see at this angle. Whee! Hit the wrong buttons. You see here as I'm building it up, it's a slower buildup, but it's also giving me a little bit of warbly feel to it. And that's actually what I'm going for as I'm building it up slightly. And then with my pen pressure, I'm actually able to kind of control that fall off, and it just gives me the look I'm going for. I don't want something super textured at the moment, but I want the feel of kind of alien vibes. So it's a really good way. Plus, it just builds up volume in a controlled manner. You know, clay buildup is really cool, but for this process, like I'm not trying to do that. You know what I mean? So it is purely a preference for the look and feel. Great question, by the way. I'm working on organic sculpt, and I switch between the two, and I do get slightly different results. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's why it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more controlled of a build-up. Of course, you know, if you just straight up draw that intensity, even with that intensity so high, look at that. That's a super high intensity, and it's kind of spreading that clay out a little bit lighter and a little bit more controlled. So. And I find when I'm working with Dynamesh, it's a cool way to kind of keep your forms looking neat. You can kind of smooth them out naturally. Now, ultimately, we're going to go to subdivision, but you know, for what we got going on right now, works perfect. I am not using a space mouse. I've never used a space mouse. I want to use a space mouse. I need to talk to people to use a space mouse. I need to just buy one, guys. Yeah, has anybody here used a space mouse? Are you guys really? I'm doing right click. I am more every day joining the right click army that was once set up by the amazing Drustin Paul. So I am turning into a right-click army guy more every day. Plus, like, I'm actually not using a Cintiq right now. I got 2 monitors on my work desk, and the Cintiq was just taking up a lot of room. So I went ahead and just like tried an Intuos, and I'm surprisingly loving it. But when I'm at home and I'm in front of my Cintiq, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4". I got a wingspan that's crazy, so I definitely do miss the Cintiq, but that's preference. But I'm not minding this so much either, you know? So there's my rant on that. Matt! What's up, buddy? Did you know there is a motion graphics trainer on LinkedIn? I did not. Thanks. Good to know that people using it. Heck yeah. Yeah, I was getting inconsistent results, and that's probably why switching between the two, especially for fat. Yeah, especially for that. Yeah. Peter, I started like you a few years ago. Have you gotten into texturing also as the next step for great models, to great paint jobs to insane models inside an engine? Best feeling to see the run around. Yeah. Well, I do a lot of my texturing still in ZBrush because I primarily I print for 3D printing and manufacturing because I got my start in the toy world before I started working at Maxon. So a lot of my texturing is done by hand. But I have played with other texture programs. It's just because most of my stuff becomes real product in the physical world. I don't necessarily move into texturing as much. But I've done it before because I've done a project a while ago actually with Coach.com where we did a dinosaur animation, and that was really cool. Ended up being on the big screen as an ad in one of those giant 3D screens in Malaysia, China, New York, and parts of Europe. And it was neat because I did a lot of texturing in ZBrush, and then I moved that texturing over into another program, and that was really cool, but that wasn't my normal workflow. And we ultimately did do 3D printing that dinosaur as well, so it was pretty cool. All right, let's get these nails in here because I feel like we're getting a little grungy with it, which is cool. So we're gonna save, I'm still in blockout, but we're gonna save over blockout 3. And then let's just Control S because I'm saving the history of life. Hey, Retheon Studios. Yes, man. Save and hydrate. Yeah, perfect. Heyo. What is going on? Oh, you meant his name is Ian Robinson too? Oh, that's funny. You know what? I'm actually surprised how common of a name Ian Robinson is. That was pretty cool. Okay. So I made these little toes down here off screen, and it was really simple. So I'm going to show you how I did that. We're not going to just copy and paste that for the sake of doing it. So we're going to go ahead and insert. Actually, let's just go ahead and append a sphere because that always drops it down to the bottom. If I insert, it'll insert underneath the thing I have selected. So we're going to append, which drops it all the way down to the bottom. Rename this. We're going to rename this fingernails because we're rebellious like that. It's so stupid. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn on our symmetry by hitting X on the keyboard. And I'm going to scale this down a little bit, and I'm going to stretch that right out. Now, I'm going to arc this, and I can arc it in a couple ways, but the way I like to arc it is actually with the transpose. I'm going to hit Y for the transpose. I'm going to come across, hit one spot, hold shift, drag it there. Now if I hover over this, let's zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so if we hover over this spot here, you see there's this little white line. Might be a little hard to see, a little white line. If I hold Alt, I can hold Alt, click that, and bend this exactly how I want. Look at this. It's my own little deformer right within the transpose. Woo. Boop, boop, boop. So we're going to go ahead and kind of arc this a bit, just like that. And I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to hold Alt again. I'm going to arc that back down. Just gives me a little bit of shape. Hit Y again, and let's reset this gizmo. And that's going to give me a little bit of shape. If it got a little off place, we'll just mirror and weld that. I also have perspective turned on, so I'm going to hit P to turn that off. Let's mirror and weld one more time. And now let's just trim this up with a knife curve. Like that. And then a little bit of H polish, so BHP for that. Let's actually clip this backside like such. A little bit of a weird nail. blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Where can you buy the clay brush? The clay brush is actually standard in ZBrush, so you don't have to worry about that. And no, it's not a curved brush, so you can't like shift wrap it around, if that's what you mean. No plastic. Like for example, with a curved brush here, if I take like curve snap, hold shift, I can't hold shift and snap it like that around an object. This is not a good example. But you understand where I stood, hopefully. So like, yeah, the clay brush is just a clay brush, so it just builds up. It's just like clay buildup. Well, it acts like clay. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, why am I explaining it more complicated than it need to be? But yeah, you can't. It's not a curved brush. Although you could probably make it a curved brush and have some weird results with that. That'd be cool. Let's go ahead and Dynamesh this real quick. All right, let's get the move brush. Boop. So I just shaped something like this, nothing too crazy. And then I don't refine it in this spot. I just don't, because I don't know if it needs adjustment. So what I'll do is I'll then scale this back down, and we'll start making our placements with this, and then we'll refine within the finger like such. Because I always love it when I adjust the fingernail around the finger. So like right here, I'm getting something that I kind of like. Now I know like, oh, this part here, that's funky dunky. So let's just clip a little bit extra off right there. And I go a little bit more asymmetrical feel with the nail. Let's make it longer and creepier. Now with nails, we want to make sure that we follow the bone structure. Okay, so we don't want to make a nail that all of a sudden doesn't work for the finger. Can't have the bone coming out on top and then the nail's crooked. Unless your character specifically does that and you write a story for that. Hey, a tentative slug. How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, cool way to make a tongue too. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, really simple. Now for his creepy nail, what I will do is I'll go under the backside of it, take that H polish one more time, and kind of refine this just a bit. Bring a little bit of sharpness, but I'm going to smooth it out. I like to smooth, relax, hold shift, start smoothing, and then let go. I don't think this version of the Demogorgon has a tongue, does he? I don't think so. Okay. I'm going to hold control. So on the gizmo, we have this really cool trick where we can hold control on the center yellow box and kind of inflate that. So if you want to make that portion just a little bit bigger without making the overall size bigger, that's how you do it. And now control, drag, duplicates, and we'll keep all the nails the same. And we'll bring them in. I can scale that down. And we're definitely going to need to adjust the fingers a little bit. Rotate that. Yep, you absolutely can use transform and transpose and deform. Yep, absolutely. There's a lot of ways to do the same trick. I just like having the it's a really simplistic way to approach that. But you're absolutely correct. Good tip. There we go. Now my approach for sculpting too, actually kind of targeting the question that came in earlier about like how do I approach sculpting and organic shapes. I very much brute force a lot of my designs. I don't worry about the topology at all until I need to. So however the topology looks, as long as I'm not fighting it, if I'm fighting the topology, then I'm not going to sit there and polish a turd, and so to speak. I'm going to ZBrush or something so that it works in my favor. You never want to fight your topology. So sticking in Dynamesh is really good for that in this case because I don't have to worry about that, right? But at the same time too, like I don't really care about my topology so much until I start fighting it. Then I use ZBrush to clean that up. So a lot of times you might see some weird odd shapes, and then I just kind of brute force those. All right, let's go ahead and do auto groups. And then we're going to mirror and weld so that we make sure that our fingers are on the same size. And then I'm going to mask off this one right here because I want to move this finger. Invert that mask. I'm going to touch this right here. Bring my gizmo, and I'm going to manipulate just this finger. So take this finger, mask that section. Turn on the little pizza box right there. Put that on the knuckle like we had talked about earlier. Okay, I'm going to soften this mesh just a little bit. And then with that pizza box, I'm going to go ahead, Control-Shift-Alt drag to hide that. And now we're just going to move this finger, just like that. That way it makes a little bit more sense. What is this? What are you? Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. All right, well, we just, oops. No. Go back. Delete hidden, close holes. Done. Fine. There we go. Whee! All right, that's a lot. Yes, I blast music when I work, absolutely. I do have some music going on in the background right now. It's very minimalistic for you guys, but I love to listen to music, especially when I retopo. Anytime I retopo anything, I just put on some good tunes, ignore the world for a couple hours, and just get it done. You know what I mean? Yeah. Music is my workflow. Okay, we're gonna come up here to another version of our subtool list. So we can actually take our fingernails in our hands and just have those two visible so I don't have to keep hitting solo or selecting each one. And now we're going to build up with the clay brush again. Actually, you know, we might use Clay Buildup now because we actually want to wrap the look and feel around the fingernail. And this is where Clay Buildup comes into play. Now we're going to go ahead and do ourselves a favor and up the resolution of our Dynamesh. So if we don't know what the resolution of our current Dynamesh model is, because sometimes it gets turned off, then what you could do is go to Geometry, go to Dynamesh, and we have a picker here. Press and hold that picker and kind of scan your model and find the highest resolution, which is about 400. I'm going to take it to 500 since it's a little bit higher than that, and then I'm going to turn on Dynamesh. Now, with my Clay Buildup, I'm going to turn down the intensity, build that up a bit so that it wraps around the nails that we have visual here, like that. And then when I re-Dynamesh that, they'll help clean that up a bit. Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, a lot of really cool stuff. Nice. When you're doing something like this too, you just want to make sure that you just kind of take your time with it, and just you want the subtools to look like they are naturally connected to each other, but you also want to make sure that it feels like nails are a different material than the skin would be, right? So we can kind of come through here and play with this and just have it wrap around so it looks like it's not just all one thing. Let's do a light smooth for a second. So I use the Clay Buildup to build up that material around that area, and then I use the clay brush to refine it to keep the look consistent. And that's why you're seeing me smooth it. Now I can come in with a clay brush and make sure that backface mask is turned on because this is still very close to each other. I'm gonna get that knuckle pushing out. Is it possible to catch VR camera to the to attach a VR camera to the mesh? I don't think so. No, not at this time. Not in ZBrush. I'm actually, I want to get some of my projects into VR eventually. That would be really cool. But no, yeah, you can't put on an Oculus and go to town in ZBrush at this time. Okay, let's build this back up a little bit. So Clay Buildup, have that come around. There. Okay, let's get the standard brush. Let's give him a little bit of a knuckle shape there. Or a little. Let's try something. I'm still not happy with this thumb. I'm probably nitpicking the design. Okay, well, I'm gonna alt tap right there in the center. Let's give him a longer thumb. Whee! Mask that section off by holding Alt, and then let's go ahead. Yeah, here we go. That's better. Yeah, let's give him even a meatier thumb. Yeah. I think the anatomy was just bad, which is my fault. Don't know what happened there. Soften that up. Pull that back a little bit. Dynamesh that. Let's turn solo off for a second. Let's click this guy here. Mask that off. Boop. The hardest part about being a sculptor is just being honest with yourself. When something's not working or something's broken or you missed a knuckle like I just did, go ahead and just tell yourself it's okay. Life will be good. Just fix it. Just fix it. Invert that, soften that up. Let's actually pull this down. Let's open his hand back up because now it's too far in. Okay. And now let's just move this back. There we go. That's better. No, you meant the VR camera model to the actual mesh model. You know, actually, I don't do VR stuff. The person to ask would actually be Anna Carolina on her streams. So I don't know. I just started playing with VR. If you don't know Anna Carolina, definitely look up her stuff because I think she deals with a lot more of that stuff. And she's a streamer here on this channel. She streams every Sunday, actually. So definitely, I would definitely chat with her. Okay. So sometimes this happens where like we were manipulating one hand and we were focused on one hand. Those nails, that's where mirror and weld comes in. You could just go ahead and fix that. I must have had symmetry turned off. And now that corrected that aspect. Okay, let's go back to Subtool, go to V1. I think I need to merge the hands together with the rest of the body because I want that to be all one mesh. And so I don't know, should I pose it first? I'll pose it and then I'll merge it and then we'll do all that. So we're not quite ready for that yet. So let's move on. Let's save it. our history and such. And let's work on this guy right here. So we have the mouth flaps that apparently I renamed something different. Mouth flaps. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these flaps. I'm going to duplicate them because I'm using array mesh right now to kind of project this over the way I want it to be. But there is size variation that's going to make this creature look better than where it's already started to head. So because of that, and I want each flap to have its own kind of feel, I'm going to go ahead and take the array mesh. I'm going to make it mesh. So I'm going to duplicate first. So Control-Shift-D duplicates any one subtool or any one folder that you have selected. And let's go ahead and solo for a second. We're going to go to array mesh, and we're going to come on down to make mesh. And that's going to make it actual geometry now. So before it was not, and now it is. Which means we can now do something like auto groups so that we have that selection. And I'm actually going to just mirror and weld so that I can actually keep the symmetry side stuff done. And then that way everything can be still symmetrical, but I'm working asymmetrically. So I could select this guy, for example. Let's hide. We'll call these mouth flaps OG, or actually let's call it array, so that we know that that's an array mesh version. And then this one we'll call just mouth flaps edit. She'll be the edit version. Thanks for contactor. I thought about importing the VR camera OGB as a subtool and then pending into a current model. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Maybe I misunderstood you. Do you mean just like taking a model and importing it into ZBrush? Is that actually what you're asking? So like you have a VR OBJ? I might have just misunderstood you. If you want to just import a model into your scene from another program into ZBrush, yeah. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you completely, and that's my fault. Okay. I apologize for that. Let me... Okay, so what we're going to do, if you want to import another, we'll just start with a fresh canvas here. So you have your model. We're happy. All you really need to do at that point is just go to import. And let me see, do I have a model to bring in for you? I think I do. 1 second. Well, let's make one. Okay. Let's actually hide all this. Okay, let's export this one OBJ. So let's say I have this as an OBJ. So these are mouth flaps array, and I'm going to export this as an OBJ. Okay. Now I want to import that in to my scene. So all I need to do is go to import, and there's my OBJ. And we take all file formats. So we take 3MF, OBJ, STL, FBX, PLY, Maya file, GoZ, blah, blah, blah. So find your file, go ahead and hit open. And there it is right there. It's just going to import that straight. Now, here's the thing to remember is that what's going to happen is if you have a file selected when you hit import, it might kind of overwrite that file a little bit. So I recommend just coming up to this, like just grabbing a new tool or importing or just inserting a tool that you're not really worried about. But once you import that in, right there, boom, done. You're in like Flint. There it is. And then you could just do it whatever. So that's how you import. So yeah, apologize for that. I completely understood your question, and I do apologize. What would be your export a character like the one you're sculpting into Cinema 4D? With Cinema 4D, we actually have the ability to import directly in using GoZ. You could do two methods. You could do the GoZ method or the FBX method. So if I have Cinema 4D right here. Let me open that up. What's up, Carbon? 4444. Woo! Okay, so I have Cinema 4D open up here from ZBrush. And this is ZBrush 2022.0.5. All you need to do is once you just saying go Z process as before, you go ahead and you click Go Z. And it's going to go through. Now, of course, you have Go Z All, Go Z Visible. So if I wanted everything to move over, I would say All or Visible. So let's say, what did that import? So go ahead and say Visible. And there's my model right there. Might be a little hard to see, so let me open that up. Right there. Let's actually I have a startup file. There we go. So that's my workflow right there. So once it's done, and then of course if you make changes here and you want to send that back, all you need to do is go to extensions, and then you have Go ZBrush, and then you have that ability to go Z importer, Go Z exporter. So you can import that back into ZBrush. So just Go Z. That's the way I would recommend doing it. But if you wanted to, let's say all of this needs to move over into Cinema 4D and you don't want to link it, then just go ahead and select export. And I would recommend going through FBX and doing your files saying, hey man, boop. And then go ahead and name it. I want all my visible to get sent over. So then I would say okay. And I would export this out as an FBX, and then you can load that into Cinema 4D. Hannibal! What's up? Whichever, George. You can make the UVs in ZBrush or in Cinema 4D. I make my UVs in ZBrush if I need UVs, which we've gone over before, which is the UV master method. But at the same time, too, you know, if you wanted to do that over in Cinema 4D, I'm sure you could. So just the same process. I might actually learn how to. I'm in the process of learning Cinema 4D a little bit more because I want to do more of the workflow with that. But as it stands right now, any UVs I do, I just use ZBrush with polygroups where I paint seams, and it works fine for what I do. But again, I don't deal with a lot of animation stuff. So I more deal with 3D prints, statues, and toys. So a little bit different of a workflow for me than it might be for somebody who needs UVs. So definitely check that out on the Cinema 4D side. But yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. Now, if your model does have, just to remember, if your model does have subdivisions when you're sending it over into Cinema 4D, it will send over the lowest subdivision. So if you have your low model, you know, like you have your high res and your low res, and you want to send over your low res and then all your textures, it will do that. Yeah, we're fine. Okay, let's continue sculpting. Yeah. Okay. What were we working on? We were working on the mouth flaps edit. So now we have actual topology here, or not topology. Yeah, we made mesh. So now we can edit these. And that's what I want to do. I want to make this one its own little, like, I want this one to be a little skinnier, a little bit more funky. So let's go ahead and start doing all that shit there. Carbon, 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 carbon. Okay. So yeah, these ones will be a little bit more like that. Am I planning on making blend shapes? I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I am planning on having the ability to open and close his mouth. So you know what? I might just do that. You guys interested in blend shapes? So maybe I'll play around with that a little bit more. What time is it? It's almost 1. What's up, Eric? As somebody who has worked in games for years and wants to break into the collectible and toy industry, what advice do you have? That's a great question. And my advice to you is have a portfolio that showcases that your work can be manufacturable and that your work comes from a concept. So let me pull up my ArtStation real quick. Hopefully I'll give you a good idea. Okay. You gonna load for me? Load. There we go. Alright, just took a minute. Okay, so especially for the toy world, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to show a really good render of the product that you have. So here, you know, you're gonna want to show off your renders just like you would in a game studio. You don't have to worry about textures or mesh. You know, you don't have to worry about, you just have to have a really good model. So then showcase all the elements, the renders of it that show it off the best that it can. So this is my Vega versus Chun-Li sculpt based off of the concept of Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, which is where I got the idea from. It's my own concept from that show. But then show clay renders, because colored renders typically can hide any type of error, and we see a lot of that stuff in the manufacturing world, and we need to know if the sculpt itself looks clean and that the details are purposeful. So show some really good clay renders, all the angles that you can. This is a pretty complex one. And then showcase that it's printed, that you can actually have it manufactured. You don't have to know everything about injection mold or understand the differences between ABS and PLA and, you know, PVC. You don't need to know those. It will help you to learn about that, because then you'll understand when somebody's like, well, I use PVC and it's more flexible than ABS. You'll be able to connect with them and be like, oh, okay, I understand. So, but you don't have to. But if you know about 3D printing, that's going to take you there that much further. So the ability to show a breakdown of the model and how it's printed is great. And then, of course, too, like I said, if you have any concept work, so for example, not sure why ArtStation is taking forever to load, but I have my render. I have my clay render. I also have a breakdown here. So if you have any experience in breaking down 3D printing, have this. So this will show them like, oh, okay, he can break stuff up. And then, of course, the print. And then for this one in particular, I actually had the concept linked in the description. So if I were to click on that, it shows the company, oh, hey, he did this from a concept. Please, ArtStation? It might be because I'm streaming and it's yelling at me. Yeah. Okay. Well, for some reason this is not loading. That's disappointing. But hopefully you get the idea. That's not loading for some, just as it did it. But hopefully, let's see if I can pull up another one. This was another concept piece I did. So this was a creature model I did, and then of course the original concept. Because that's the thing, you're going to be given a concept to sculpt from. They're going to say, make this toy, here's the concept, or you're not going to have a concept, but they're going to give you a TV show or a movie, which is actually why I showed you this one, and they're going to say, hey, we have a series coming out, here it is, sculpt it. So anytime you can do that. So, and then just have your work look really consistent. When somebody sees your portfolio, they want to be able to take a look at your whole portfolio and say, hey, can this person do what they say that they can do? Your portfolio should be living and breathing extension of you. So if you're active in looking for work, try your best to always update it. As you can see here, I have a lot of fan art. Fan art's okay to have in your portfolio as long as you're showcasing the process within it. I wouldn't worry too much about sculpting original stuff because I may not know what I'm looking at. You might have a really cool model idea, but without the backstory, it's really hard to showcase what that thing is. So unless it's really obvious, original work might be a little hard to sell. Where if it's fan art, everybody knows what Demon Slayer is, what Captain America is. So I have a zombie cap, you know, blah, blah, blah. So it's okay to have fan art. Just, you know, call it what it is. When you find a concept or find a concept artist that then provides a concept, connect with them and say, hey, I would like to sculpt this, get permission from them to do that, and then put that in your portfolio. So all those things you can do to showcase that. So top 3 things: a really good render, a clay render, and it can be manufactured in some way, shape, or form. Just entered the game industry, and the modeling speed they're expecting from me is killing me. That can be rough. I can relate to that. That can be rough. That was insightful. Thank you. No problem. Any artists you look up to get examples from? Like, I look at a lot of different artists' work. I don't look at any one particular artist so much anymore, but I look at a lot of artists' work to kind of just see what everybody else is doing. You know, I was the guy who really liked Raphael Grassetti and, you know, Shane Olson and A-Cube and a bunch of just really fun artists that I liked looking up in the 3D world. In the 2D world, Randy Bishop was one that I really liked his stuff. I thought his stuff was really cool, so I gravitated towards that early on. I've gotten more into trying to design my own concepts from stuff that I like to sculpt. So like I'm doing my own take on this Demogorgon creature, but I am blocking out the original idea and then we'll manipulate it as such. But I just kind of browse. I kind of just browse ArtStation and Instagram and see what other artists do. If there's something there that's really cool that I like, then I'll connect with that artist and see if they don't mind me working from their work. A good solid DM never hurts anyone. You know, if you like something, reach out to them and be like, hey, do you mind if I sculpt this? This thing looks really, really cool. Yeah. Sam Desart is another really fun one. If you don't know his work, check out his work on Instagram. He does a lot of his own kind of anime-inspired... It's like anime-inspired, like, drawings that are based on, like, real-world things, like sitting there with a cup of coffee and your cat, which is pretty cool. How do I fix the cheese grit mesh when you Dynamesh? Yeah, the cheese grater. How I fix that, if it happens, first thing, the reason why that happens can be kind of an interesting troubleshooting method to do. But the way I approach that is, as soon as I Dynamesh something and the cheese grater effect happens, the very first thing I do is I go Control Z, and then I go down to Geometry, Mesh Integrity, and I check Mesh. And I go Mesh Integrity Test Complete. And if there's errors, it's going to pop up with a bunch of errors. Because what might be happening is you have holes that are on the inside or little pieces of mesh that are like barely touching each other, like this. They're barely touching each other, right? But on the inside. And when you Dynamesh, that resolution might be so high that it's just not connecting that, but because it can't connect with itself, it's now just like populating a bunch of randomness. So check mesh integrity, and then if you have any issues, hit fix mesh. And then what I recommend is go back to Dynamesh, and if your resolution is like really high, like let's say we're at like 1500, I would say hold control, tap a history spot, and lower that mesh down a little bit and try to re-Dynamesh after that. It's the easiest way to see if there's a bigger problem. Because again, a lot of times when I get it, it's when my Dynamesh resolution is so high and it's just not able to mold with itself well, or I have a bunch of holes I didn't notice I had on the inside. Because Dynamesh is trying to take the mesh and clean out any floating mesh and close holes where it can. And if it can't do that, it's gonna yell at you. So that's what I highly recommend you start with. Do that and then go from there. 9 times out of 10, the fixed mesh integrity test, that's gonna do it for you. Emperor of Cheese, welcome in. Boo, 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 boo. Yeah, not a problem. I also would say if you are getting that often, I would highly consider taking your mesh and Z-remeshing it and getting actual topology in, because that won't happen to you in the subdivision world. Subdivision mesh is a little bit easier to work with. When I keep something, I only use Dynamesh for when I am merging something together officially and I'm not wanting to use remesh by union for whatever reason. I don't know why. So if it's, or I'm sketching and Dynamesh is my friend and I'm like, yeah, let's just use that. I love sketching with Dynamesh, but I try to move to mesh, to some sort of subdivided mesh as fast as possible. It's just what I do. Okay, let's start getting some funky dunkies happening here. Let's clean this up a bit. I'm gonna want to start putting in some teeth and building the inside of his mouth. And there are a lot of teeth for him, so let's start getting spots where that's gonna go, and then we'll probably I'm not quite sure how I want to handle the teeth yet. That's okay. Okay, so let's actually create some gums for where the teeth will be. This is going to be printed at some point in time, so I'm not going to be populating a ridiculous amount of teeth that aren't going to be printable. So we're going to do ourselves a favor, and we're going to keep it simple. So we're not going to have 1,000 teeth in here, but we might have, oh, I don't know. Let's use Clay Buildup for this next part because I want to build the clay. We might have like 20 teeth aside or something like that, but we're not going to have hundreds and hundreds of teeth. That makes no sense. So let's put little gum spots here. Like that. We'll do something very similar up here at the top. This is where Clay Buildup really comes in. Because now I can kind of just quickly build up forms. And we can refine it later. I'm not worried about exactly how it looks. I'm even going to smooth it. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm having fun with this piece. Taking my time with it. I think it's cool to kind of just like try out something. If it doesn't work, pivot. Okay. I'm gonna have to sculpt the inside here, so let's go ahead and populate where these teeth would be. And then where these teeth would be are gonna be right in here. It's gonna have, should he have internal teeth? Ooh, is that gonna print well? How big are we gonna go? These are all the things I asked myself aloud. Okay, you know what? We're gonna probably change the design a little bit, and we're only gonna put teeth here and on the outside here. Yeah, let's do that. This is already kind of small, you know? It's still going to be creepy enough. It's still going to work. So maybe what we'll do is we'll do something more like, take the damn standard. Do a little funkiness right in this spot here. Take that clay brush back up. Maybe puff this area. Something like this. Maybe not. Maybe not. Alright, we'll figure that out. Yeah, you know it. Yeah, I think we're gonna make a toothbrush here coming up. Alright. Yeah, and I want to get those teeth on as fast as possible. So let's save it, and then let's build a toothbrush that we're gonna like. Now we already made these fingernails, right? So now that we made that, that's where we're gonna steal the quote design from, and then we're gonna go ahead and use all that. Why is that saving there? I don't want that to save there. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and now we're gonna take our fingernails here. We're gonna go ahead and duplicate that. So Control-Shift-D duplicates, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually plop this up towards the top. And what we're gonna do is just call this teeth. Now let's solo this out for a second. I'm going to take just the one. So I'm gonna turn off symmetry. I'm going to go ahead and isolate one tooth, delete hidden. Now we're going to rotate this. Yeah, let's rotate that. And let's send it home. Hit F on the keyboard to snap that. Now we're going to mirror and weld that. Turn symmetry back on. Let's go ahead and get this tooth looking a little bit more like a tooth. And I like to make teeth like kind of look like teeth. So I'm going to go ahead and create 4 little spots right here. I'm going to take the snake hook, hold Alt, and I'm going to drag this up. I'm going to give it some roots. This helps me set the tooth in to the design. It gives me a spot. So if I start seeing these roots come through or pushing in an odd way, then I'll know I've gone too far. Let's go ahead and pick that. Dynamesh that. Take the clay buildup now. Now I will use the clay buildup for this at a lower, because if I use the clay buildup and I come down with straight strokes, it's going to give me some pretty cool texturing that I like. And let's actually turn on backface mask for this next part, so it builds up the way I want. let's take the Move Infinite brush. Now this needs to be printed. So we can't have points like that. Okay. Let's go ahead and actually make this a brush. So if you want to make something a brush, first thing, I'm actually going to, yeah, let's just leave this alone. So we're going to go B. We're going to make this an insert brush. And when you do, go ahead and say new, and we draw that out. Now we want, this is something I want to showcase. Notice how the design is facing at me. So that's how it's going to draw out. So anytime you make an IMM brush, when you go to draw out a shape, it's going to draw out the way it is. So if I want this pointing out like this, that's actually how I have to look at it. So create inset merge, go new. So now when I draw this out, that's going to set the way I want it to set, which is cool. So now that we have that tooth, I'm going to go ahead and let's go hollow, not hollow, unsolo. Now when I come in here, want to try something real fast. Okay, that didn't quite work the way I wanted it to work, but that's okay. We're gonna go ahead and plop that out. Actually, I want that embedded, so let's create this toothbrush. Let's go to depth, and let's drop this in so it embeds a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Polo, hey, how you doing? Let's see. Now that, let's see. No plastic. ZBrush is still ZBrush, so no, I don't think they're going to be stripping or ripping features out. You know, obviously there's a lot of stuff that I can't say, but at the end of the day, ZBrush is always going to be ZBrush, so you don't have to worry about that. Let's see. Hello, Ian. Are you familiar with 3D scanning and cleanup? I was wondering, diving into that, create first 3D print bike. Possible. Scanning and clean, 3D scanning and cleanup, there's a lot of artists that use ZBrush to do that. I have done it a little bit. It is a workflow that basically you're trying to preserve as much of the sculpt as possible. I am not super familiar with that process, so I don't want to speak out of turn. However, what I can do for you is on YouTube, I'm going to go ZBrush. I'm going to send you the link. ZBrush Summit 3D Scan. We actually had somebody talk about that, and so I'm going to link you to that as the top tips. So I'm going to copy and put this in the chat. So that is working with 3D scan data. It was a ZBrush hot tips back in 2020, I think. When did this come out? Yeah, November 13, 2020. I don't even like that. So, and what he does is he actually comes in. No, go back.
And I didn't really want to spend the time to sculpt one.
So he covers the whole process. He covers the whole process about what he does and showcases all the way through. So this will give you a pretty good start, and even covers exactly like how he's preserving it. Because scan data is very kind of I would imagine is very a repetitive workflow. This video gave me a lot of information when I tried it a few times. So highly recommend to check that one out. Can I elaborate on the educational Maxon? You mean the educational license of Maxon? Yeah, absolutely. Let me actually go over to their website for a second, and I can go over that. Okay. So products, Maxon 1. So if you wanna go to buy, okay. So with the educational, so if you're here at Maxon.net buy, and you go to students and teachers, You get Maxon 1 for $9.99 for 6 months. So that's $20 a year. So if you have an active EDU account, you're going through a university, and you click on here, this actually will take you to the OnHub e-store, and you create an account, you upload all of your student information to that, and you add this, and then what that does is it verifies that you're in school, and then you have the entire Maxon 1 for $9.99 every 6 months. So that gives you Cinema 4D, Redshift, Red Giant, ZBrush, Forger, Universe. Gives you all of this for $9.99 a month, and it's the full program. It's not a stripped down version of the programs. It's the full program, so you get the entire pipeline on that. Did you have a more specific question about Maxon 1 for the student license? Yes, absolutely. Yep. So here, I will send you. So make sure that down at the bottom, we have perpetual pricing. So to kind of clear this up too, we offer all of these programs for a perpetual license. There's also a schools and university for educational license for those who teach, and then you have your students, and then you have your distributors. So for the student license, let me go ahead and copy paste that. This will take you right there. Boop, right there. And then if anybody here is also looking for a perpetual license, that will be for you right here. Yep. So, cool. Glad I can cover that up. Yep. Hey. ZBrush is always working on trying their best to create new features. So when we make those announcements, you guys will know. You guys know. We will let you know when new features come. Believe you me, we will. I'm going to go ahead and save this brush, by the way. Save as. Demogorgon. We'll call this the toothbrush. That was so stupid, it made me laugh. The student license is amazing. It absolutely is. The student license is amazing. If you guys want to get into ZBrush right now, and again, as long as you're a student, okay, you have access to that for $9 every 6 months. It's a steal. I almost want. it's like, oh man. Yeah, I was really happy with that price. So. Okay, we'll obviously be modifying these teeth a little bit, but I feel like once we get more teeth out there, it'll be a lot better. And I'll control and blow that up a little bit. There we go. I'm just doing a control drag. It's pretty, actually for this, let's use Interpolate, actually. I want to do that. So with Interpolate, you have your spot here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this right there. And I'm going to drag this one over here, like such. And then I'm going to go ahead and go up to Stroke and Interpolate. And we'll hit that and see if that gives us... I kind of want a little bit more of an organic shape, but that is pretty cool. Yeah, I'll just, you know what? I want a little bit more randomness. That's too neat. Sometimes it's too pretty. Let's actually come over here, drag this. What I'll do is I'll actually control drag this out and rotate this feature around. Whee! Whee! That's how we're gonna do that. Let's see here. Toothbrush! Yeah. Finally applying for my first 3 modeling job thanks to a lot of stuff I learned on your streams. Dude, Sammy, that's awesome. You gotta tell me if you get it, okay? That is awesome, awesome, awesome. And remember too, you know, there's a lot of jobs out there, so keep applying, you know, and yeah, good luck. That's awesome to hear. Hey, what's up, Leonard? How you doing? What's up? Have I decided on the final pose? I have not yet. I'm still technically blocking out at this stage, getting the design a little bit more where I want it to be. I'm going to show you guys how to use Topological here in a second, but you know, the original design has a lot of teeth to it, and so I want to get the main teeth out and then go from there. There's just a lot. So one of those spots where it's like, how do I want to handle this, you know? So we'll get the main teeth out, and then we'll like add in a bunch of little teeth that might make sense to print. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're really looking for, is like, oh, how do we do this? Okay, so with Topological is really cool. I want to position each and every one of these, but obviously with the move brush, it's going to move whatever's around, right? So I'm going to actually turn on Topological with auto masking, and then I'm going to show you this. I think you guys are going to like this. If you go to brush size, so hit S and then hit 0 or 1, at this size with Topological, I can literally move around the brush or around the object however I want, as long as it's a different poly group. So I can literally come in here and say like, yeah, push that guy in, push that guy in. So it kind of allows me to move the whole thing, so I can have a little bit more randomness to this. This was the part I was actually the most afraid of. I was like, how is this gonna work? But this is pretty cool. So I can just take this. So this is literally just a 1 brush size. It just moves the whole thing. And that's Topological. And we're gonna add teeth up here too. Perfect. All right. All right. Got a row of teeth down. Let's continue. Let's make more. I'm laying down all the teeth first, by the way, before I get into refining the gums. I want to lay the teeth down first. He says as he's refining the gums slightly. Why are you doing that? Because we get that toothbrush back. There we go. Pull these out. Make all these teeth real quick, fast, and in a hurry. There we go. Let's move around. Also, hey, and thanks for the stream. Absolutely. Does it affect the topology at all? I've been doing it with Topo brush full size. So that's a great question. So when you have the move brush out and it's a larger size, it's only gonna move. Yeah, it's only gonna move the topology of that one. So a bigger brush is gonna grab more surface area. With the 1 brush size, it's actually just moving the entire object by itself. So it's not affecting the topology. Whereas a bigger brush size, even like, let's just go brush size of 2, automatically that does affect. But it only affects the poly group that you select. So even if I drag this all the way through, it's not going to affect that. So yes, it does not affect the topology when it's at a brush size of 1. It just moves the object versus the manipulation of that. So yeah, great question. That was yeah. So anytime you just want to move an object and you don't want to you don't want to be busting out the gizmo, topological brush size 1, because you're already using that brush. I have the teeth at a higher resolution because I was lazy and didn't make a lower resolution. I'm going to be ZBrushing it anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. It also has some pretty decent detail, so. But I'm only laying down a couple thousand at a time. Hello, hello, Daniel. Yeah. I can admit my laziness. I'll tell you right now, I'm pretty honest with that stuff. Paolo, no, not for me. So to answer your question, wouldn't it be better to add teeth after detailing the mouth, because otherwise you may have to check every tooth again later to make sure that you're going through it? The answer is no for me. Now, everybody has a different workflow, but the reason why I'm adding the teeth in now is because I actually want to detail the mouth with the teeth placement in mind. So if I, for example, make gums like this, so let's go ahead and I'm going to grab this right here, and I'm going to up the resolution a little bit just so that we have decent resolution. I'm going to start sculpting this, right? Boom. So I'm getting this detail, blah, 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 blah. And then I place a tooth. So now we're going to go back here. I'm going to go ahead and place my tooth. Now I have it embedding. Okay, great. Now I'm going to want to come back, grab my clay buildup, and make that cavity. So I'm going to want to build around the tooth now to make that cavity, right? To make it look like the gums are embedded. So that's kind of like doing double the work, in my opinion. Now, again, everybody has a different workflow, and there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. But at the same time, I already kind of have an idea of where I want the teeth to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and place those teeth where I want them to, and then I'm going to detail around. So that way, I actually end up having a little bit more control of the overall look and feel of it once I'm done. And placing the teeth right now actually gives me the ability to add some asymmetrical feel to it, even though I'm still working in symmetry at the moment. So it really is up to you at that point how you would like to approach that. But because I'm going to go ahead and start positioning the teeth in somewhat of a relatively final position, then I start detailing the mouth, I can actually make it look like it's more a part of what it's supposed to be, rather than saying, oh, okay, now I have all this really cool texture on the inside. I have to fit the teeth to what I've built unless I'm ready to rebuild. Here I can kind of just start kind of concepting how the mouth should look and then finalize it once I'm happy with the teeth placement. Does that make sense? So that's my logical approach to it. But like I said, there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. Yeah, easy way for me, block out the placement, detail after. You are rushing ahead, in my opinion, if you don't put the main construction in before detailing the gums. Yeah. I just make a shadow clone and have him do it while I play. There you go. There you go. That's how you roll right there. Oops. All right. You know what I want to do actually? Okay, let's do this. All right. Let's stop being 100% lazy, right? I'm going to take this tooth right here. I'm going to hide that bad boy. I'm going to go ahead and split hidden. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control Alt tap this, save it before I overload myself here and forget to do that. Because these teeth alone are like now 4 million, and that is ridiculously high. So we'll do ourselves a good favor. We'll take this right here, and we're going to go ahead and with auto groups turned, with auto groups mirror and weld, right? That's all done. We're now going to go to ZBrush, keep groups, adapt is on. Let's start with 10,000 targets, and let's ZBrush it. And we got about half an hour left, so we still got some good process to do. I don't know if you guys can see the silhouette of these teeth. It looks kind of interesting. It's like a weird starfish. Hug me! Oh, I am planning, by the way. I'll sneak peek this for you guys because I am planning on it. The next how it's made, I'm planning on doing something where I take my D&D character that I make and I sculpt my D&D character. More likely I'll do it from a base mesh that I create, so I might create the base mesh and a nice little like miniature project file to then build upon so that we keep a really good size and idea of it. But if that's something that interests you guys, let me know. There we go. Okay. There. That went from 4 million to 87,000. I think that's a little bit better, right? So let's go ahead and hit F, and let's retarget this at 2. Keep groups. Yeah, I thought that'd be fun. It's a Stranger Things pack. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, let's go. Let's do that in half. I want some low tall. There we go. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to make a couple brushes, okay? So I'm actually going to copy this. Let's bring it over here. Let's hit F. Let's go ahead and insert this one tooth. So I'm actually just going to hit paste. Pardon me. Let's make some different size teeth now. And then I'll release this brush in the next newsletter if anybody's interested in having a toothbrush for your creatures. So let's go ahead and delete this guy right here, and we'll call this tooth 1. That's a bit lazy. Let's go sharp tooth 1. Why'd you type out 1? I'm gonna Control Shift D, duplicate that, and that's on solo. Now I'm actually going to scale this down a little bit. So I'm gonna hit W. And I'm gonna like kind of shrink it a bit. So I'm gonna hold Control and scale this down just a little bit. And then I'm going to do a light smooth. Make it just a little, it's too aggressive. Just a little relaxed, a little bit different. Maybe skinny it up a little bit, like that. So we have some different teeth. I'm gonna go ahead and take this one, Control Shift D. I'm actually gonna make this one a bit wider. And then let's give it a bit of a different design. Let's actually, you know what, let's do this. Let's flare this one out a little bit. And then let's actually make this one kind of, let's make this one a little bit skinnier. Here. Want this to be maybe a little bit flatter, just so we have a different shape to it. Do I have a YouTube, Twitch channel? I do. I do have my own. I just don't stream to it often. I don't have a whole lot of time with everything that I do, but I've been wanting to go back and kind of get it a little bit more active. If you just look up Iris Sculpts, you'll see a lot of my stuff. I've just been really busy with work and then family. That's just me being transparent for a second. Okay. Here, we'll get something like that. And then let's actually do this one more trim. But now this isn't a sharp tooth. This is more of like, let's rename this kind of, we'll just call it flat tooth. That's 1. Let's come on down, rename flat tooth 2. And with this one, it'll actually be a little bit more of like a molar. So let's actually come here, do something a little bit more like this. And still give some variety. Now, we're not going to use these last two on my Demogorgon, but that doesn't mean that you guys can't use it. Hey, Rodolfo, how you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. The silhouette that looks like a turtle fossil. Does, yeah. Let's see here. This creature reminds me of the Star-Lord and Suicide Squad. Oh, the Star-Lord. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. That's funny. You're right. Now I see that, and I can't unsee that, so thank you. That's so funny. There we go. Okay. There. So here are some teeth-based stuff that we can deal with. Okay. So now we're gonna go ahead and what I'll do is I'll save as, and this will be teeth. It's what's for dinner. Let's put this right here like such. Frame this here in the center, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit B. And then we're going to create insert multi-mesh. So now we have all of these teeth up here that we can populate at any point in time. Okay, and then let's go to depth, and let's put this depth at like -5. Let's try that. That might be a bit much. So let's do 5. Yeah, that's fine. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and let's go back to our main creature here for a second. Okay, let's take this right here. I'm going to zoom in on this guy right here. And go to brush, selection icon for the teeth, and then let's go ahead and actually let's take a cylinder. Let's actually append a sphere. Let's hide that cylinder. Let's come here real fast. I'm gonna drag this out. Make sure they're all embedded the way that we want them to be. Something like that. Go to brush, select icon, save as, and then let's do our toothbrush. Toothbrush, save. Boom. All right. now we can add some other stuff. I'm doing good, Rodolfo. How are you doing? Great to see you here. No, we'll see the roots. Maybe that was a waste of time to model it. No, not really for me. I mean, it depends too, because what if you want to actually have a tooth that gets pulled out? What if you want to showcase some decaying? You never know when you actually might need a little something. So, for example, my zombie cap, I built the tooth the same way. Yeah, for the most part, if you have nice, healthy looking teeth, you may not see that. But again, that root is more than just a visual effect. That root is actually an indicator of knowing how much tooth I can show before I have that. And it gives me a point in which I can actually make that adjustment on my own. So, but again, if you wanted to have a tooth that looks pulled out, having roots on there gives you at least a starting base to sculpt on. So, but at the end of the day too, yeah, most people might just be like, boom, done. You know? It is completely up to you. So that was all my little teeth I want to do. And we might be getting a little... Okay, what we might end up doing is keeping the teeth separate, and I might deal with the 3D print problems of this approach later. Because I also want this just to look really, really cool, you know? Cool first. Haven't had much time, and your stream is most of the times offset my schedule. I know, man. I know. I'll tell you, yeah. Actually, I do like this time a little bit more than my Sunday time was. But I'm glad to see you here. So hopefully this is a good time schedule for you. Because this is the time we'll be doing more of the How It's Made series as well, so. If you guys want similar size teeth, you notice that I'm dragging them out like this, and then I'm doing that each time. If you want the same size, all you have to do is drag out and hit Control, and that's going to populate the same size every time. So if you do want consistency in your sizing, that's how you do that. I don't, not really. So I'm going for a little bit of a variation. I think it's going to give me a little bit more of a organic look. Something that's what I'm striving for. Nice. I appreciate it. It was good. I'm glad it's a much better time for you. Yay. This is my schedule now. Every Wednesday from noon to 2. How does the Ask the Trainer session work? Is it live? You know, that's a great question. So the Ask the Trainer session that we did with myself, Anna Carolina, and Paul Gabry, it was live. And typically the Ask the Trainer session is you come in and you get to ask the trainer about the process that is working on. So with ZBrush, we had myself, Paul, and Anna because we had such a wide verse of knowledge in how we approach sharing that content. So it is live typically, and I believe that's actually hosted primarily on YouTube. But we also push that stream on our side so you guys can be notified when it goes. And then yeah, you just when the comments get asked, you know, you come in and ask your questions, and then from there. We try to answer it as best we can. So that's usually how it works. I really like the second tooth more for what we're doing. ZBrush all day and then more ZBrush. Yay! Okay, do they have a schedule? You know what? That's a good question. Let me look. Yeah, here we go. So if you go over to, I'll post it in the chat right now. They might have it on their website. I don't know. But I just sent the link to the Maxon training team. And yeah, they have Ask the Trainer series here. And you can look at all the previous ones before too. The same size as the last one you did? Yeah, the same size as the last one you did. Yeah, so if I drag this out, and then I drag out this one, hit Control, it will populate the same size as the one before. It's a little bit of a weird thing that happened right there, but you get it. Yeah. But I like to have my teeth organic. I don't like to have it the same size. Gonna, should I make a skinnier one? No, that's not gonna do anything. Now I'm playing with what I want. No problem. Whee! I'm actually gonna move that right there. All right. How long have I been using this program? I've been using ZBrush now for about 7 years. And when I first started sculpting in ZBrush, I was just super intrigued by sculpting primarily. So I spent the first like 3-4 years just sculpting, learning how to sculpt, learning and studying anatomy. And then slowly but surely, I started getting more and more, quote, technical with my work. But I am definitely more of a sculptor first, but there are so many really cool features that I started diving really deep into ZBrush because I realized it's just like there's just so much to it. Yeah, that looks better. How do you make the skin? What I usually do is get the muscles and bones down using Clay Buildup. Is there a better way of doing this? Solar Dragon, first off, awesome name. That's really, really cool. I love it. So the way you're doing it is perfectly fine. So the way I got this skin was actually, and I was talking about it a little bit more in the beginning of the stream, was actually just using the clay brush. So that's B for brush, C, and then L, which is the shortcut. And what I do is once I have a blocked out version, kind of like what you're talking about with the Clay Buildup, which again, yeah, you want to get some really good forms. I would say start down getting all that built up, then come back with a clay brush. And what that does is that kind of helps place the clay down in a way that has a little bit of more subtle organic feel to it. And it just kind of gives me like that look, because skin has fat pads under it, and so I like the way it looks. And then sometimes I'll even like do a relax smooth where I'll hold shift, start smoothing, let go of shift and still smooth, and then come back over with that clay brush, and it just kind of helps build that look and feel. The other thing I recommend that you do is, so for example right here, let's take his back muscle. Paint your brush in the movement of the fibers of the muscle. Hopefully I said that right. So for example, let's look at the chest muscle here. Notice how the fibers connect to the collarbone and then come down and then connect to the humerus, right? These come through, whoop, connect. So that is how I'm going to paint the anatomy as well. Let me solo this for a second. So it starts up from here, and I'm going to come down, and I'm going to follow the anatomy as it should be. And that is going to help give me those slight little textures throughout. And it's going to help feel like it's legitimately that muscle that you have. So like here with a bicep, I used to do this and then try to fight it, that squiggling. Just move in the bicep the bicep fibers come down with it. Subtract with it. So you're really just working within the fibers of how that muscle gets built up. And that's going to help bring a little bit of realism to it. So when you're studying anatomy, don't just look at like the bulky shapes of it. Also pay attention to how those fibers move and function. And that's going to help bring just a little bit more believability to your sculpt. Now, it's still okay to come in sometimes and like do a quick like tear down, like, oh, I don't like that. So I'm going to tear this down real quick. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to do a relax smooth shift, let go shift as I'm smoothing. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to start putting back the clay in the fibers that I need. Now, if I'm subtracting a little bit, like there's a bump here, I'm still going to subtract by holding Alt and do that in the motion of the fiber itself. So anytime you're blocking something out, like I just kind of did this for his butt, right? But then I know that like the gluteus minimus and maximus, they are moving in a very specific way. So the final passes and cleanup flow into the way the fibers typically go. And that will give me that shape that I'm looking for. And it also helps you too just kind of remember that that's the direction that that fiber is going to be moving. You know, the fibers are never going to be, you're not going to have fibers going up and down and then the movement is going to be left to right. It makes no sense. So that kind of helps with that too. So the fibers of the chest come in this direction because the whole arm rotates up and those fibers open up. Yeah, so this, honestly, just download PureRef, and then I just Googled this. 1 second. So what I did was I just Googled the muscular system like this, and then I just took this, and here's my PureRef right here. I just literally took this system and dropped it into my PureRef. PureRef is free, by the way. And then I save that out. Yeah. And that is the easiest way to get your reference for you. Okay, we only got a couple minutes left, so let me see here real fast. What are you doing? Do you think is the best way to practice? Hello, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great, Mohammed. How are you doing? What do you think is the best way to practice anatomy? Honestly, just do it. Look at all these muscle charts, break down how it goes. If you can get an écrochet, like a 3D one, you can find them. I think Rafael Grassetti has one for free. But I would say just look at the anatomy, see the placements of it, how it goes, and look at, like, don't look at medical books. Anatomy for Sculptors, that's a great one that will help you learn forms a little bit better. But honestly, by staring at these and seeing how the muscles go, it's a good way. A lot of practice is the best way to get it. It's not a cop-out answer. It's just more of like the only way you're really going to understand it is by doing it. So don't be afraid to fail. But the other thing too in anatomy for ZBrush is under the spotlight by hitting comma and going to tool. We have an écrochet here, Ryan Kingsley's ZTL. It's a female écrochet. So what that means is, by default, it's going to have a woman's skeleton, and it's going to have fatty tissues like for the breast area. But if you remove the breast area and just look at the muscle structure, for the most part, this is the same. Men and women share very, very, very similar anatomy. There's only slight differences, usually hip placements, pelvis placements. The skull's shaped slightly different. Usually men are broader shoulders and a little bit more straight, where women have a little bit more of a curve to them. So there are slight differences, but you can use this écrochet within ZBrush to get started, because every part, like look at this. I'm going to hit Shift X for a second just to blow people's minds. Here's all the anatomy within ZBrush. And do you one better, they're all named. So if you want to learn the name, trapezius, right? I'm going to hit F. That's a trapezius. pectoralis, if I said that right. I'm going to hit F again. There you go. So not only can you learn the names, but you can learn its placement. Shift X again, F on the keyboard, snaps it right back. So you can see, and with, if we select here, you have their different wireframes and stuff like that. So you can come through and check it all out. So definitely worth it. So if you want to check that out, that's the best way. That's another best way to do it. And then, oh yeah, Jesse Pixie, take a class with Scott Eaton. Absolutely. That's a great way to do it. Paul Richter, Anatomy for the Artist. Yeah, there you go. Name dropping. Good, 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 good. All that's there. Yeah. I understand that. Let's see. What brush do you recommend to really emphasize small fibers of the muscles without skin or fat? Honestly, just Clay Buildup. What you could do as well is, this is a little shout out to Eric Sosa, but if you take the Clay Buildup brush and actually change the alpha to alpha 18, and then you adjust the focal shift to be a little sharper and then intensity down a little bit, that'll actually give you some really good muscle striations. So if you want to get kind of, let me save this real fast. Gonna save it because we're gonna get going here. But for this is a really good way to puff up muscles. So the deltoids themselves are built up of three muscles. Save. So what I do is I'll take this Clay Buildup, come through, and I'll emphasize those 3 different groups. Something like this. Then I'll take the damn standard, and that's a little too harsh. I'll come in and actually use the damn standard to emphasize those positions. This is a little loose, but, and then that Clay Buildup with the alpha 18, come in, and that will kind of help give you bolder shoulders. But again, even if I'm going back and forth, I'm still painting in that fiber direction. So it'll give you something a little bit along those lines. You can see here, that's a quick way to build up. And I'm using a lighter intensity, so I'm not smoothing. I'm just letting the brush build up on itself, both negatively and positively. Cleaning it up, light intensity, and it gives me those kind of fiberish feel. Absolutely, not a problem. Not a problem. Okay, let me finish one thought real fast, and then we are going to be going. Now I started this, I want to kind of finish that up. Let's go in here real fast. There we go. And then for something like the bicep, here, damn standard with lazy mouse, come in here like this. Get something like that in there. Fill that back in. That helps really start getting that texture in there. Even cutting negatively, a damn standard just like that. And then yeah, just I say this all the time. If you're doing anatomy, there are some people that can do anatomy from scratch to excellent. I'm not one of those people, so I always have anatomy reference off on the side. So when in, just pull some reference. It's the best thing for you. Eventually you'll get to a spot where you start looking at it less and less. Fewer and fewer times are you pulling it up. And like I get to the point where my blockouts actually get pretty good without needing anatomy reference, and I can start filling in a lot of it, but everybody's different and it's hard to retain information sometimes. So being able to just have that reference in front of you just gives you that visual backup so that you don't have to sit there and try to make it all up. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. It's already there. Just go get it. So, all right, here's a little bit of a flap there. So I'm going to continue to refine this a little bit more off stream just because I would like to get the sculpt done. I'm really passionate about it, but I won't do anything major. Like I won't pose him until next stream. So we'll be doing posing, and then on top of that, we'll start figuring out 3D printing. But I won't go too crazy on the detail without you guys, so do not worry about that because I want you to see the overall process and how I work in ZBrush. So hopefully this stream is helpful, but let's go ahead and wrap it up. So I'm going to save this, and let's call it a day. Yeah, chest is easy to remember because all the muscles point to the armpits, I find. Yep, absolutely, yeah. And that actually creates that little negative triangle space between the deltoid and the chest, the way those muscles are formed. And a really interesting fact with the chest muscles, when it connects to the humerus, it's actually a U shape because when your arm is down, it's actually in that U shape. When you open up your arm, that muscle then rotates. It's really cool. All right, everybody, that is it. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me. I always appreciate it. And again, if you're new to this or you are just kind of stumbling upon the channel and you're not quite sure what's happening, this is ZBrush. We go ahead and focus on teaching how to use ZBrush every single day. We have over 40 artists that are here, and on Tuesdays we do Industry Spotlight. We do Ask the Trainer as well, or we have done Ask the Trainer as well. We also do Ask ZBrush, and we have a newsletter where we download all fun stuff. That brush I made today, guys, that toothbrush, okay, I will put that in the newsletter so you guys can have it as well. So if you guys would like the newsletter, go over to, let me drop a link to ZBrush so you guys can have access to all that stuff, because we started dropping more goodies, and we also have some fun stuff. So let's go ahead and copy this. Let's throw this in chat. And we're going to do more minis. Guarantee it. All right, guys, that is it. I will talk to all you later. See you next week. Same time, same bat channel, all that good stuff. All right, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.